in these things, like where it's like, let's involve the audience, I'm always like,
Please don't choose. Please no. Please no. Don't choose me. I am an invisible man. No one could see me. Where am I?
hello, brave person who clicked on this video about the biggest dicks in history, and there goes my monetization. Welcome back to another episode of
Brain Blaze.
I am Blaze Boy. But before we get into it today, I will say that this video is brought to you by who? Magellan TV. Yes! Described it before as Netflix for big brains, and they let me get away with that. So I think the perfect way of describing Magellan is as Netflix for big brains. If you're like, Netflix is fine, Netflix has documentaries, but they have nothing compared to the documentaries that you will find on Magellan TV, which is dedicated to just documentaries and learning, which is amazing. What do they say? It's founded by filmmakers who love history, which is obviously what you want when you're doing something like this. You'll find one of the broadest catalogues of history content available pretty much anywhere today, with more than 3,000 documentaries available for streaming and more added every week. Everything from the Greeks to the Great War. I mean, that spans a large amount of history. But it's beyond history, it's also science, and there's so much, true crime, scientific profiles, biographies, modern history, it's really everything's there. So if you're looking for 4K explorations of binge-worthy topics, you should consider Magellan TV. Oh yeah, I've recommended this one before actually. Battlefields of World Wars is a really good one. Doesn't really relate to this video in any way, but if you're watching this, you're probably like just into smart content. So Brain Blaze, smart content. Please. But look, I mean, you probably know me from my other channels as well. It's like, you'll like this. You'll really like this. So look, if you want an amazing addition to your streaming lineup, just click that link in the description below, and Magellan are gonna hook you up, and let's get into the video. What happens here, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Danny writes me a script. I'm gonna read the script. Sam, our video editor, is going to sprinkle in some of the finest vintage memes, and that's how the sausage is made. It's a dick joke. Welcome to
Brain Blaze.
I suppose there were a number of different ways the script could have gone. Yes, indeed, Danny, there could have been. I'm assuming this isn't about large penises. I'm just assuming that in general. I'm assuming it's about people being dickheads. Let's crack on. We could have taken a look at some of the more famous historical examples of human beings behaving like utter bellends, a limp roll call of shame that may well have included the likes of the farmer bro, Martin Shkreli, ex-Sir Fred Goodwin, Gwyneth Paltrow, and the bloke called Trevor who used to be the branch manager of a Tesco in South Yorkshire. Yes. Trevor, who we name-checked many times in the previous video, and then I had to bleep it all out because afterwards I was like, Daddy, let's not just mention people by. I know they could have been a huge dickhead, but it does feel like a bit of a dick move to like call them out by name as they're just some random private citizen with an expectation of privacy, even if they're an utter bell. Or we could have explored the surprisingly tragic tales of men born with incredibly big appendages, such as John Falcon from New York. He feels that his 13.5-inch penis has hampered his budding acting career and who causes a security alert every time he tries to catch a plane. No, he doesn't. No one's going through airport security and it's like, sir, they just use a metal detector, they find out that it's not made of metal, and then, it's just on your way, Mr. Falcon. Good for you, mate. Next. Or Steve Whitehurst from Stoke-on-Trent, who gets accused of shoving goods down his bulging trousers every time he checks out at the supermarket. Or Roberto Esquivel Cabrera from Saltillo in Mexico, who claims that his 18.9-inch penis, holy sh**,
huge whopping penis, wow,
has forced him to register as disabled, and he now relies on food banks, although it's also alleged that he's been artificially stretching his own foreskin with weight since he was a kid, and there's very little actual wang in those 18.9 inches, which is super weird. Like, why would you want some sort of super saggy long foreskin? What foreskin weights? My dude. What are you up to?
Well, I'm afraid it doesn't look good for your bird.
But in fact, thanks to a suggestion from Baz on Twitter, we're going to be talking about some of the most memorable moments in the lives of history's most high-profile members to have proudly sailed under the name of Dick. Oh, this is taking a rather different approach. I assumed we were going to be talking about bellends or giant penises, but like Danny says, we're talking about neither. Instead, we're talking about people called Richard.
Our daddy taught us not to be ashamed of our dicks, especially since they're such good size and all.
My uncle was Richard. We just call him Uncle Dick. I never thought it was funny until, Dick, which, by the way, I actually made a video about this on my other channel. If you're curious, like, Richard to Dick, how on earth do you get there? Well, Richard was shortened to Rick, and then that was shortened to Dick, and boom, there you have it. Before Dick meant penis, obviously. I guess. I don't know. Is it obvious? Probably. You don't get to see so much Dick these days. The name hit a climax of popularity in the US in the year 1934 when it was ranked 138th most popular name for boys. Surely that was just the name Richard. People were actually calling their kids Dick, and it wasn't short for something? Alright. I mean, also, Gaylord used to be a name. Which is different, isn't it? I know, Simon, it used to be a different time. Gaylord didn't mean the Lord of the Gays. I don't even know what am I talking about. Stop. But this rise to glory began to drop considerably from the year 1969 onwards. It hasn't even registered on the US Social Security Administration's name tally since 2005, which reveals that fewer than 5 Dicks have been born every year since then. But surprisingly, this decline in popularity has probably very little to do with the fact that Dick is a well-known slang term for a custard launcher. Oh God, Danny. Oh God. Oh, that is... No, I just got it. What? I assumed there was some... Oh, let's just move on. Jesus Christ.
Simon, are you okay? No.
That euphemism has been knocking around since at least 1836. Some say it even dates back to the 14th century, and nobody seemed particularly troubled by it. Ah yes, humanity's evolution into immaturity. A bigger problem seems to have arisen during the 1950s and 60s when Dick also became a slang term for stupid or a contemptible person. That didn't go down quite as well with new parents in search of a suitable name and appears to have led directly to the presence of Fresh Dick disappearing from the list of birth registrations. But while Dicks come in all shapes and sizes and many of them must have felt hampered by the unfortunate choice of name, there are a handful of Dicks who were destined to make a far mightier splash than others. Dick Turpin, a highwayman. I think I made a video about this dude on Biographics. Well, don't spoil it, Simon. Just read the script like a good fact boy. I don't think I was quite prepared for my visit to the York Dungeon attraction in the late 1990s. I was hoping for a leisurely stroll around the historical grisly exhibits and was expecting the freedom to absorb the torture chambers and animatronic plague. The animatronic is a difficult word. It's not one you read every day, is it?
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Plague victims and haunting scenes of death and misery at my own pace. Yeah, I remember being scared shitless of London Dungeon. It's like, I assume it's a similar thing. It's like an exhibit where it's like, yeah, this is how we used to torture people. It's like, why are we showing 5-year-olds this? I remember it's like one of those things that sticks with me is a man having his head sliced in half by a sword. Like the sword coming down and like literally cutting this bald head guy's just a little bit in half and the blood coming down. It was like, what the f***? Why would you need a 5-year-old to see this? Were my parents just a bit... Why did you take me to London Dungeon, parents?
I'm the cool dad. That's my thing.
Or was it school? Whatever it was scary as shit. And I remember it. I remembered it for years. But no, it turns out that the York Dungeon isn't that kind of attraction. Instead, it's one of those places that you think you're just minding your own business when suddenly you're randomly overwhelmed by groups of student actors dressed in historical costumes who insist on engaging with you in character and trying to make you look silly in front of all the other visitors. Yes, in these things, like where it's like, let's involve the audience, I'm always like,
please no, don't choose me. I am an invisible man. No one could see me. Where am I?
It's like, I remember there was a TV show about like how to get by, like if you're in a terrorist situation and they've taken you hostage or whatever. There's this concept, I remember seeing it was like, I don't know, Chris Ryan's SAS survival tips or whatever on TV when I was a kid. And it was like, there's something called the Grey Man, where it's just like, don't get involved, don't say anything, just kind of look like this the whole time. Just be ignored by the terrorists, because otherwise they're going to choose you to have your head chopped off. And so in those situations, it's always just like, don't look away, just sit there and look incredibly boring, because they don't want to pick a boring person. Thanks, Chris Ryan. You helped me in terrorist situations and also things involving student actors. Brilliant work.
Great job.
The climax of the tour was a weird filmed reenactment of the sentencing and hanging of the notorious dandy highwayman Dick Turpin, a lovable and charming rogue whose presence lingers heavily over the city of York like a bag of frozen peas over a swollen ankle. Quite the metaphor there, Danny. But although the romanticized legends of Dick Turpin depict him as a handsome, swashbuckling, and gallant highwayman who only ever stole from the rich and broke dozens of hearts in every village he galloped through on his trusty steed Black Bess, the truth isn't quite so pretty. Yeah, I remember this from the biographics video. It's like, yeah, Dick Turpin, hero highwayman. It's like all of these kind of heroes, it's like, yeah, they were an outlaw, but they were good-hearted because they'd break into the banks and burn all the mortgage documents. It's like, yeah, but they were still a criminal, weren't they? They were still a criminal. They still probably, I don't know if he murdered anyone, but it's like, it's probably not as rosy as you think. There's not many current criminals who you're like, yeah, they're alright really, aren't they? They're not too bad. It's just the romanticization of history, like with everything. We've always got to remember that the past was the worst. In fact, Dick Turpin was a ruthless, smallpox-ridden thief, murderer, there we go, and sadist who was despised during his violent heyday in the 18th century, but was given a literary makeover 100 years after his execution. And his horse wasn't even called Black Bess, it was probably just called Bastard or something. Okie dokie. What's your horse's name? Bastard. I'm gonna get a dog and call it Bastard. Bastard, come here, boy, Bastard. Bastard, cockface over here. Woo, cockface. It's an alternative name for a dog, cockface.
Fuck! Good boy.
Born in 1705 in Hampstead, Essex, it looked for a while as if small Dick might end up following in the footsteps of his father when he trained as an apprentice butcher. But it appears he got in with the wrong crowd. The Essex gang were a mob of criminal poachers and cattle thieves who were interested in securing the services of someone who knew how to carve up and dispose of fresh, stolen meat. Okay. Wait, is this like a metaphor for him disposing of bodies, or is he like some sort of black market butcher? Because one's, bad, it's like you don't want to be a black market butcher, it's a bit weird, and I'm not gonna, who buys meat from a black market butcher? It's like the least black markety thing I can think of.
That's racist!
But if you're disposing of bodies, it's a little bit different. It's more of a crime, He ends up getting hung, and he is a murderer, so maybe it's that.
Even if this guy isn't a professional basketball player, I'm hoping he's hung like one.
Dick eventually handed in the butcher's apron. Nope, he was a real butcher. The more you know. To serve as a full-time member of the Essex gang, who by this time had turned their attention away from troublesome livestock and were now focused on the simple hobby of just robbing farmhouses. They're like, why are we stealing all the animals? We could just steal the money. Cut out the middlemen. Oh, how did it take us so long to get here? And many of these robberies were just utterly barbaric, often involving pouring boiling water over the victims until they revealed where the loot was hidden. Dick Turpin, romanticized, good-looking hero, smallpox-ridden or smallpox-ridden torturer. The past, it was the worst. Don't let those books about the past fool you. It was shit. Look, people are like, oh, look at Downton Abbey. I've never seen Downton Abbey, but I assume it's like romanticized of the past. Or what's that new one? Which seems to be like slightly pornographic, Downton Abbey. Bridgerton. It's like, don't let them fool you. You don't want to live back then. There's polio and shit. In one of the most famously documented cases, Dick and his chums beat up a 7-year-old man, stripped him, and shoved him into a roaring fire, while another member of the gang nipped upstairs to rape one of the young maids. Dick Turpin. That legendary highwayman.
Who the hell are you guys?
We're the highwaymen. We're your escorts to the fair.
Thankfully, the long arm of the law managed to catch up with most of the Essex gang, but Dick managed to evade arrest and decided to invest in a highwayman costume. Although he's largely remembered as a highwayman, this was actually a relatively brief entry on Dick Turpin's CV, and one which came to an abrupt end when he accidentally shot dead one of his own accomplices during a bungled robbery. By 1737, Dick had fled up north to South Lincolnshire, where he went under the new name of John Palmer and sought a simpler life on a less crooked path. Makes sense. Good for you, Dick. But you were a murdering bastard. Someone's going to come looking for you, or you're going to get caught, I hope. In fact, spoiler alert, I know you do, and I think it's got something to do with handwriting and an old schoolmaster. If that is the case, I am extremely satisfied with my memory because, as I mentioned the other day, we've made like 500 biographics videos. It's like, people are like, Simon, yeah, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I don't know who that is. And it's like, you made a 25-minute biographics video about them. I'm like, did I? Okay. You'd ask me like a week later, I'll be like, I don't know who that is. Simon, you small brain. In one ear, out the mouth, and not into the brain. In the eyes, not into the brain, out the mouth. I'm Ron Burgundy?
The fuck is he talking about?
Well, apart from the horse stealing, and horse stealing in the past, it was like, you might have murdered, you might have raped, you might have tortured, but steal a man's horse and we're gonna hang, draw, and quarter you. John Palmer's main revenue stream involved stealing horses from South Lincolnshire and taking them up to East Yorkshire to be sold. This was a risky business, as horse theft had been a crime punishable by death since around 1545, and this law wouldn't be watered down in England until 1832. So, wait, Danny says yeah, he went on a less crooked path, except he does a more serious crime at the time. Obviously, the murder and the torture is worse in our modern eyes, because, stealing a horse. I feel like I could accidentally steal a horse while I'm drunk, and then it'd be like, you're gonna be executed. I was like, oh, that got real. Whereas I don't feel I'm gonna be murdering anyone when I'm drunk. And if I am, probably deserve to be in prison, don't I? Well, yeah, you murdered someone, Simon, stating the obvious.
Oh, crap. Am I gonna be upbeat? I'm arrested.
But perhaps quite fittingly, Big Dick's undoing involved the mishandling of cock. During an alleged drunken argument on the street, Dick decided to shoot somebody's cockerel in a fit of rage and then threatened to kill the owner of the ex-cock.
Cockshot!
This reckless drunken act led to John Palmer's arrest and the eventual exposure of his real identity and villainous backgrounds. Well, I guess I was wrong about the handwriting thing. It could have been someone else. It was probably one of the other highwaymen that we covered, because on Biographers it's like, oh, we did a highwayman and he did well. Guess what we're going to do more of next, boys? More highwaymen. In the interest of expediency, he was only charged on 2 counts of stealing horses, which was enough to send him to the gallows in York in 1739. The only mourners to turn up for this live entertainment had all been paid 10 shillings each by Dick to show their faces and save him from the final embarrassment of lonely execution. Under normal circumstances, it's likely that the dark tale of the bloke with smallpox would have been completely forgotten by the history books. But almost a century later, in 1834, the writer Harrison Ainsworth decided to resurrect Dick Turpin as a character in his novel Rookwood. Why couldn't you just make someone up? Why do you have to resurrect this guy and make him into a hero? Why not just be like, yeah, John Smith. Easy. Look, just go online, or whatever the 18th century of online is, and just enter a name into a random name generator. Boom. Done. No need to resurrect a bellend from the past and turn him into a hero. However, instead of basing the character on true historical facts, Ainsworth reimagined Turpin as a more honourable and handsome and heroic and horse-loving dude.
He's kinda gay.
And it is this fictional version of the appalling murderer who often gets wheeled out in films and TV shows and 80s music videos by Adam and the Ants. Never heard of them, don't know this music video, don't care to. Black Bess would have turned in her grave if she ever existed, which she didn't. Dick Trickle, and the biggest dick in the world.
It gets bigger when I pull on it.
What is going on today? Spare a quick thought for Dick Trickle. Born Richard Leroy Trickle in 1941, the American race car driver became known from an early age as simply Dick. Although he was never considered a top-level driver, Dick began... By the way, I'm watching the series F1 Drive to Survive at the moment. Never really had any interest in Formula 1, and now I'm like, this is amazing, it's incredible. It's like The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, you know? I don't know anything about basketball, don't know anything about Michael Jordan, other than he had some shoes. And then you watch The Last Dance, and you're like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Basketball. And then I watched the Formula 1, like, this is the greatest thing in the world. Formula 1. It's so good. Stop watching this. Good YouTubing, Simon. And go check out Drive to Survive. It's very good.
No, I don't think I will.
Although he was never considered a top-level driver, Dick became a minor celebrity after first taking up racing in the 1950s and went on to compete for several decades around the short tracks of Wisconsin, picking up a clutch of minor championship titles along the way. A bit of a character, Dick sometimes had a small hole drilled into his safety helmet so that he could puff a cigarette while he was racing. What a legend. I mean, I know cigarette smoking is bad for you and stuff, but it does look kind of cool, doesn't it? This guy, like 50 racing driver, he's like, no. I can't do a race. How long's that, an hour? Crazy? I gotta smoke. These Formula 1 guys, they get out of the car after race and they're like, sweaty. It's like, you see them working out in the gym and they're doing all these neck exercises and so I looked up why they're doing that. And it's like, yeah, because driving a Formula 1 car around a track, like if you haven't done your neck exercises, your neck just can't take it. So it ends up just wobbling all over the place because the G-forces are too high. And I'm like, god damn. Although I was hoping to keep a section on a guy called Dick Trickle fairly light, it turns out that he died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in 2013 after suffering from chronic pain and depression. Oh, well, Danny, you didn't keep it very light, did you? American stand-up comic Doug Stanhope attracted some controversy when he observed, "You'd think that with the name Dick Trickle, the suicide would have come by middle school." Dude, I don't know how long after 2013 you said that, but it's like that. Too soon. Too soon. But I was surprised to discover how people were generally happy to put the words Dick and Trickle together. I assumed at first that the drive would generally be referred to as either Dick or Richard Trickle. But no, Dick Trickle was just fine. I mean, it sure is memorable, isn't it? It's like weird, people have weird names. I mean, most celebrities I feel don't have weird names, their children have weird names. One that does, Minnie Driver. It's like, really? Minnie Driver? Your surname was Driver and your parents chose to call you Minnie. Really? Or maybe it's just made up. Maybe she chose to, either way it's weird. Not as weird as Pilot Inspector or Moon Unit. Made fun of those in the past. OGBB! After his death, many Midwestern short tracks launched their own memorial Dick Trickle Classic races, while Wisconsin International Raceway are proud to serve drinks and salty snacks from the Dick Trickle Pavilion. And this leads me into an interesting point on how careful you have to be when you're talking about a dick. Let's take arguably the most famous and certainly the most powerful dick in the world, Dick Cheney. Serving as the 46th Vice President of the United States under George W. Bush between 2001 and 2009, it's often been proposed that Cheney was the most powerful vice president in American history, with some critics even suggesting that he was pretty much the de facto president. He also gives Dick Turpin some stiff competition for the title of most hated dick in history. By the time he left office, his approval rating had shriveled to an embarrassingly low 13%. That is savage.
Wow, even smaller than I thought.
I mean, even like the hardcore of your own party, surely that's going to get you more than 13%. That is pretty terrible, to be honest. What did George W. Bush on? Because he was the most liked and the most hated president in history, right? Like, according to polls. Is that still the case? I feel like Trump might have thrown that off. He probably did, didn't he? It could have been because he played a major part in initiating the Iraq War, on the false basis that the country had developed weapons of mass destruction. It could also be because he was the mastermind behind an illegal spying operation on US citizens, or that he was a champion of the brutal waterboarding interrogation tactic in which blindfolded detainees are strapped to a board and physically held down as water is poured into their cavities until their lungs fill up. Wait, no. That's not what waterboarding is, Danny. Unless I'm really mistaken, waterboarding is where it feels like your lungs are filling up. So they get a cloth, they put it over your mouth and they pour water on it. And you're not actually drowning, but the body just thinks it's drowning. So it doesn't actually damage you, it feels like you're being drowned. So it's an effective torture method without any physical, painful, damaging consequences. Unless I'm really mistaken about waterboarding, and generally Danny being the one who actually writes the facts, I assume is more knowledgeable. But I think I'm right on that. Am I right? Let me know in the comments.
You are dead wrong.
Dick Turpin and the Essex Gang would probably have heartily approved of this tactic, which was later classified as torture and banned by the subsequent Obama administration in 2009. Also, wasn't that dude who was like, yeah, waterboarding's not torture? It's not torture. How about we waterboard you? Okay. And then he got waterboarded. He's like, no, it's torture. It's for sure torture. Adora, is that true? I think I mentioned this in another video I recorded recently. So I don't know if that's true, but it's a great story, isn't it? Or it could be because following his early years in government, he took up positions as chairman of the board and the CEO of the multinational corporation Halliburton. This dude goes from hated politician to joining a weapons manufacturer. That's what Halliburton do, right? They make bombs. Right? He's going for disliked person, right? I hope the money's good at least. And allegedly used his government connections to help amass a personal fortune of up to $86 million. Holy shit. Even though it sometimes meant conducting a bit of lucrative business with corrupt Arab autocrats and enemies of the United States. Uh-oh. Is that illegal? I feel like if you're selling weapons to America's enemies as an American, the FBI is going to be like, what's up, my dude? FBI, open up! Stop that. Get into prison. I'm sure he has this allegedly. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's totally allowed. It's probably allowed. Who knows? In my opinion, allegedly, never said any of that. It's just opinion. I'm sure he has his supporters too. But on both sides of the political fence, people are going to be discussing Dick Cheney for a long time into the future. And when they do, you'll notice that they'll often keep using his full name, as a solo dick just doesn't always fly in the same way as a regular first name. Imagine that a bunch of interviewers have turned up to express their opinions for a forthcoming TV documentary called 100 Glorious Years of Dick Cheney. Some of them... It's not a real thing, right? Some of them might be personal friends or loyal associates or supporters, others might be angry critics, but whatever their stance, they're likely to continually refer to him by his full name, even though it's blindingly obvious who they're talking about, and just the first name would usually suffice after a while. And that's because they'll instinctively be trying to avoid making a public dick slip. Some of the interviewees might come across such insightful pearls of wisdom as, "I've enjoyed many a pleasurable night with Dick Cheney. I can't bring myself to even look at Dick Cheney. I've learned a lot from studying the behaviour and performances of Dick Cheney. I don't think I could bear a world without Dick Cheney."
He's kinda gay.
If we now go for a more natural style and drop the weirdly repeated use of the last name, we end up with, well, Danny, we know what we end up with. I think my pause really made it clear. And that's why, no matter how big and powerful a dick might become, the world would never have seen a mononymous dick, widely known by just his first name alone. That might work for Cher or Madonna or Adele or Simon or Yoko. Don't put me with Yoko, Danny! But it's far too much of an expectation to place on a dick. Also, everyone knows Yoko is Yoko Ono. Like Cher, Madonna is Madonna, Adele is Adele, Simon is Simon. No, Simon Whistler, and Yoko is Yoko Ono. Dick Van Dyke. Here's my all-time favourite dick. Ha! Gay! The legendary Dick Van Dyke has enjoyed a glorious TV in music, TV, film, and radio, which spans over 7 decades. And along the way, he's picked up 5 Primetime Emmys, a Grammy and a Tony, and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which initially misspelt his surname, but at least the thought was there. If you're making a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, spell the name right. I mean, good lord. Can you imagine going there and be like, guys, that's not how you spell my last name, it's D-Y-K-E. I don't know how they misspelled it, but it's not that complicated, is it? Also, he's well known. He's getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But even a legendary dick can drop the ball from time to time, and it's a shame, in a way, that he's often widely remembered for one incredibly dodgy accent from 1964. Missouri-born Dick Van Dyke was chosen to take the role of the lovable Cockney chimney sweep Bert in Disney's musical masterpiece Mary Poppins, but it's fair to say that the accent didn't quite hit all the right notes. In fact, even today it often tops polls for the worst fake accent ever heard on the silver screen, and budding new actors studied Dick's method to learn how not to put on a fake dialect.
The constable is responsible. Now how does that sound?
It sounds like crap.
Dick still finds himself apologising for the disastrous recently in 2017. Guys, it's been like nearly 60 years, for f***'s sake. Stop! While picking up a BAFTA for excellence in television dick jokes, I'll never live it down. I appreciate this opportunity to apologise to the members of BAFTA for inflicting on them the most atrocious Cockney accent in the history of cinema. Can you imagine apologising shit that's 60 years old? Oh my god. It'd be like me apologising for pronunciations. It's like, no, I'm just not going to. I just don't want to. I've no interest in it. And I'm definitely not going to be doing it in 60 years. That's goddamn for sure. I'm not so sure it was all Dick's fault. Anyway, he claims that he perfectly copied the accent of the film's voice coach, but the problem was that his Cockney voice coach was an Irishman. Oh no, well, you can be a voice coach and not have the accent, otherwise it would be like, it's very limited voice coaching, isn't it? But you'd assume that a voice coach would be very good at voices. So yeah, okay. And absolutely nobody on the set, not even Mary Poppins herself, Julie Andrews, pointed out that the accent might still need a bit of work before it bellowed from the rooftops of London, tween pavement and stars.
Well, it sounds like crap, right?
I actually don't have a problem with Bert's accent at all. I think it's more gently mocked than outright hated. It's become another cherished component of a beloved film which has captured the imagination of several generations, and I've heard far worse. Kevin Costner's curiously fluctuating accent as the lead in 1992's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves was down to the fact that he started off trying to sound British until the director eventually gave up the idea halfway through filming and told Kevin just to pretend that Robin Hood was American from now on. Guys, that's going to call for some reshoots, because it's going to be like, yeah, Robin Hood's sort of a weird British accent, and now he's American. That's weird. Just keep with the bad British accent or go American the whole way through. It's okay. It's allowed. We can suspend our disbelief.
Needs be.
Robin Hood's not real anyway. Just be like, and Robin Hood was an American. A modern day American. Fine. Cool. Okay. Whatever. No one cares.
Actually, I'm Irish.
1992 was a bad year for accents, as the same year witnessed, or what was also surely the worst fake accent ever committed to film. Keanu Reeves tried to sound as British as Jonathan Harker in Bram Stoker's Dracula, and ended up sounding goofier than anything ever heard in Bill and Ted. The director Francis Ford Coppola reckoned that poor Keanu was just trying too hard and should have relaxed a bit.
We can be married when I return.
Not with that accent.
Of course.
All right.
Then you have the absurdity of 1986's Highlander film, in which the leading Scottish character is played by a French-American who's clearly never heard of a Scottish accent in his life, while the only Scottish accent heard in the whole film comes from Sean Connery, who is actually meant to be playing a Spaniard. Oh, I love it. It's so, like, if you can't do the accent, either get an accent coach and work on it, or just abandon it. Just be like, yeah, he's Spanish, but he sounds American. And we'll all be like, okay. Like, The Hunt for Red October did it brilliantly. They're all supposed to be Russian. They do that. Is it the one? That's the one where they do the zoom in on the mouth thing, and they all sound American or Scottish, like Sean Connery or whatever, from then on. And it's like, everyone's totally fine with that. It's genius, in fact. It's brilliant. And just do that. It's fine. I mean, you don't have to do the zoom in on the mouth thing. I mean, that was kind of a one-time genius move, but it's okay. It's totally okay, no one minds.
The Lord tells me he can get me out of this mess, but he's pretty sure you're fucked.
Still, there was far more to Dick Van Dyke than a bit of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. He was relatively late in achieving superstardom, as he was in his mid-30s before he landed his own sitcom, The Dick Van Dyke Show, on CBS in 1961, which achieved phenomenal success over 4 seasons. Before that, he'd originally planned to enlist in the army after his 18th birthday, but was turned down twice on the grounds that he just looked like a lanky streak of piss. It's a weird expression, but okay. Never heard of that. Dick was over 6 feet tall by the age of just 11. God damn! In fact, at the age of 18, it was first discovered that he was 4 months older than his parents had led him to believe. Looking ahead to his 18th birthday, Dick had been making plans to enroll in the military when his mum confessed that he actually turned 18 4 months earlier. Why? She originally claimed that there were vague complications with his birth, so they put a date on the birth certificate that would have represented a full term. Holy shit, like, but that would be very, very early. Like, born at 5 months? Back in the day? No. Still feeling suspicious, Dick approached his grandmother, who confirmed that his mum was talking some bullshit. His parents had pushed forward the birthday to hide the fact that he had been conceived out of wedlock. Uh-oh. Dick, you bastard! Dick did eventually get into the army on his 3rd attempt, but in a non-combat role. He was working as a radio announcer and took part in variety shows to keep the troops entertained. Things I'd rather do in the military than fight. Radio announcing. Am I going to get shot as a radio announcer? No, you just got to announce the radio. Be like, cool, done. Like, if there was a war, that's what I'd go in for. I'd be like, guys, I can do some great... You want me to be on the radio? I'll do the radio for free. Yeah, no big deal. Me, your boy with the blaze. It'll be great. Please don't kill me. Please don't send me to be killed. I don't want to be shot by the North Koreans. Ah!
You're a coward, you know that?
Or whoever we're at war with. I don't know. I don't think it's very likely that I'm going to be packed off to war with North Korea. But I'm just saying. I could do the radio. It'd be great. Please don't kill me. The 1960s proved to be a golden age for Dick. Aside from his own award-winning sitcom, he made 2 more famous movie appearances, the aforementioned Mary Poppins and the 1968 musical fantasy Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, based on the book by Ian Fleming, which was definitely the weirdest entry in the James Bond franchise. Yeah, it's one of my favourite pieces of trivia that the dude who wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang also created James Bond. Legend. And was a legend as well. I think he was a spy and stuff. Very cool. The producers had originally hoped that Dick would have another go at putting on a British accent for the lead character of the English inventor Caractacus Potts, but still bristling from the memories of Bert's chimney sweep brush. Danny, these words! Dick understandably told them where to stick that idea, and he was sensibly allowed to use his natural accent. The next couple of decades were a quieter period for Dick, not helped by a few bad decisions on his part. One of his biggest ever regrets was turning down the role of Ambassador Thorne in a contender for the best horror film ever produced, the 1976 classic The Omen. The role eventually went to Gregory Peck, and Dick now concedes that he was stupid to turn it down, but he was keen on maintaining a goody two-shoes image at the time, and he was concerned about the levels of horror and gore in the film. Perhaps he was right. After every scene involving an impaling or a decapitation, you'd have half expected Dick to burst into a rousing rendition of "Let's Go Fly a Kite Up to the Highest Heights." I really like that song. It's a good one. But Dick's career saw a second lease of life following the success of his 90s action comedy mystery medical drama TV show called Diagnosis Murder. Oh, yeah, it's got to be read because there's a colon in there. Diagnosis Murder. And he went on to take several notable returns to the movies, most famously in Ben Stiller's Night of the Museum franchise. And there's more to his bow than just acting and singing and dancing. After buying a Commodore Amiga in 1991, Dick self-trained as a professional computer animator, and at the age of 65 got some of his 3D rendered efforts onto the small screen during one episode of Diagnosis: Murder. The crew realised that they couldn't afford to film the real-life motorcycle stunt required from the script, so Dick got to work creating his own CGI motorcyclist instead. 1991, huh? I bet that looked realistic. And he's still going strong today at the ripe old age. He's still alive? Oh my god, the greatest surprise of this entry is that Dick Van Dyke is still alive. Congratulations, he's 95 years old. Releasing solo music albums and performing on stage as part of the Capella Quartet, Dick Van Dyke and the Fantastics. That's fantastic, Dick. You're 95 and you're still going strong. Good on you. He reckons that the secret to longevity is his third wife, Arlene, who is 46 years his junior. It keeps him on his toes, but it's quite remarkable that he is still fizzing with so much energy today, especially considering that he was a raging alcoholic for 25 years and was a heavy smoker for the vast majority of his life. Doesn't appear to have done him any harm though. Strike a light, governor. Would you Adam and Eve it? That is a Cockney rhyming slang that Danny has decided to include in there for me. Brilliant. Spotted Dick!
What?
Back in my primary school canteen, there was usually a choice of 2 puddings to enjoy after you'd wolfed down the fish fingers and potato scallops. Yes, we also had Spotted Dick. I think it's a very British pudding. It's like a sponge with peanuts in there. Not peanuts, with like raisins in there. And I don't know why it's called Spotted Dick. It was kind of long like a dick, but not always.
What?
Yeah, Spotted Dick. There you have it. Fascinating fact, boy. Get on with it. And I'm not sure why there was a choice, as 99% of the kids always went for the jam, roly-poly, and custard. Barely anybody at all dared ask for Spotted Dick and custard, as they knew it would inevitably lead to several big dollops of ridicule and innuendo at the dining table. Are you enjoying your dick, Danny? Are you enjoying putting that dick inside you? Ah!
Ha! Gay!
It's not gay, come on. I don't know, man.
That's a little gay.
He's kinda gay to me.
I wouldn't have fancied it anyway, as it always looked a bit too fruity and healthy for my liking, and there was no jam in it. Another distinctive invention from the Victorian era, at first published as a recipe in the Modern Housewife or Menagerie in 1849, you'd only get a dessert with a name like Spotted Dick in Britain. Lying somewhere between a suet pudding and a sponge pudding, the baked dessert is usually stuffed with currants and raisins, which is probably the main reason why it's likely to taste so revolting. It's a bit weird, but I do like Dick. I mean, Spotted Dick. Ah!
Stop it. Get some help.
It's quite a good pudding. And although the name may sound curious to modern ears, it probably made perfect sense back in Victorian days. The spotted bit obviously refers to the currants and raisins, while the dick in this case is mostly derived from the word puddick, which was an Old English name for pudding. There you go. Not because it's shaped like a dick, fact boy, because it wasn't really shaped like a dick. They should make it shaped like a dick though, shouldn't they?
Oh, yeah, no. You know what? No, yeah.
But does the name still work about 170 years on? Could you keep a straight face if someone innocently tells you that they've just been chewing on a nice bit of spotted dick and custard? Yes, Danny, because we're not 11. Well, it's an issue that's come up from time to time, particularly in more recent years. Tesco was the first UK supermarket to raise the alarm when they rebranded the pudding as Spotted Richard. No, you didn't. After growing concerns that women shoppers were too embarrassed to ask for the product by name. Women shoppers who are 11. What is going on? No, they weren't. As a Tesco spokesman put it at the time, can you imagine a lady going up to a male assistant and asking where she might be able to find a spotted dick? Yes, I can. Who said this? As a Tesco spokesperson. Danny, I mean, is it just me or is it like, I don't know, I'm not 11. I don't have a problem asking for spotted dick. It's like, do you have any spotted dick? Yeah, it's in aisle 11. Let me show you. That's how it would go. No, we're not 11. He later added, I can also confirm that Trevor from our South Yorkshire branch is a bellend. That never happens, allegedly, in my opinion. Not in my opinion, Danny's opinion. What? This was only a temporary move from Tesco, although Spotted Dick again grabbed headlines when it was reported that Stranger's dining room in Westminster had gone down the Spotted Richard route too. The 19th century restaurant in the Houses of Parliament is used by MPs to entertain VIP guests and party donors and prostitutes. Oh, okay. I guess there was some scandal I was unaware of where a prostitute was invited to the Westminster dining room. Politicians, what are you doing? Don't do that, it's not going to go well, is it?
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
But in 2018, Conservative MP Andrea Jenkins revealed to the press that Spotted Dick had vanished from the specials menus and been replaced by Spotted Richard. When she demanded an explanation from the waiting staff, she was told that the new name was less likely to cause a stir and unwelcome blushing, as some of the staff apparently dare not to say dick out loud while politicians behaving like 11-year-olds. Look, I've seen those BBC Parliament or whatever clips where it's like the politicians are all like, oi, 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 oh, shame. It's like, you're all a bunch of 11-year-olds. Stop it. How did you rise to the highest of offices? It's insane. Behave. This caused more outrage than it really should have, as the press began to suspect that this was the first step in a secret government plan to eradicate Spotted Dick from the Great British Menu. No, it's not a conspiracy. No one cares enough. Former leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, you bellend. You're such a bellend, Farage. Why do you have to get involved with this, you prick? Allegedly. In my opinion, I can say in my opinion, Nigel Farage is an absolute bell. He ranted this was just PC baloney, whilst Piers Morgan tweeted, oh look, the double bellends are chiming in. What a bunch of Richard heads. Oh, Piers, hilarious. But none were quite so impassioned about the crisis as elderly Conservative MP for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant. Never heard of him, probably for the better. After dismissing the restaurant's move as puerile, he went on to angrily exclaim, call a dick, I say. Get off my lawn. Christ, it's no wonder the country's gone to the dogs. Of course, there was no such sinister plot, and the stranger's dining room soon reverted to calling a dick a dick. So it appears that Spotted Dick may well mature into the most enduring dick of all time. The name may be disappearing from the birth registry lists, but will soon reach a point where it becomes extinct. And we may never again see a dick as foul as Turpin, as dick as powerful as Cheney, or a dick as legendary as Van Dyke. But Spotted Dick will be the last dick standing in a long line of dicks, cementing its position as the dick that lasted the longest distance. This was an episode.
Brain Blaze.
Was it long? It feels super long today. My legs are tired. I also broke my collarbone and now it's all itchy and painful, which is brilliant. Thank you for watching. It's like, don't let them fool you. You don't want to live back then. There's polio and